Hello, everybody. This is Christine Dixon of The Ordinary Sacred. And this, I believe, is my 10th video in the self-therapy series where I talk about my own inner work using the internal family systems model to work with my own burden parts. And if you haven't seen the other videos in the series, you can check them out. I have ones with a socially anxious part, a suicidal part, critics, all kinds of mothering parts. You can go check those out. This video is going to be about my people-pleasing part. Some of you have heard me talk about her. Her name is Cassandra. And before I tell you more about her, I always want to give the disclaimer that this is very personal work and it's not meant to be prescriptive for you. So for example, what my people pleaser tells me about my history or why she does what she does may be different than what yours tells you, right? And so listen to it. I hope that you find inspiration from it. But to find answers about your own system, you always are going to need to go into your own system and ask the parts directly and get the insights from them about your unique system. Also, I see my parts, I hear from my parts. You may have different experiences. You may just have a knowing or a sense of them. So just be open to however you experience your system. There is no right or wrong way. Having said that, I would like to introduce you to my people-pleasing part. Her name is Cassandra. She's around 6 years old, and she has done a huge job for me for most of my life. She, I would say, was one of my most blended, dominant protectors, particularly when I was with other people. Every time I was with other people, she was very hypervigilant, looking for what do they want from me and how can I give it to them? And she would become incredibly overwhelmed the more people were in the space, because sometimes what this person wanted was competing with what this person wanted, and she would just go crazy, right? But she never ever thought, what do I want? Or what do I need? Or what's right for me? It was just always, I have to please the person in front of me. So I did not take notes about her in the moment when I was working with her, like I did with some of my other parts, but I thought it would be so valuable to go back and talk about her unburdening experiences, because she has been maybe the most burdened and has had I've worked with the most. So there's a lot of rich stuff in there. All right, so I first met Cassandra over a year ago, and I began working with her on many, many memories, many incidences that she was protecting. She was the most layered and the most burdened part that I have worked with, which is interesting because I've worked with my suicidal part, right? Which was really one incredibly transformative session, and that part was unburdened. But Cassandra, my people pleaser, I've been working with for over a year on a regular basis. So every part is different, right? People ask me, how long does this work take? And I'm like, well, it depends. It depends on the part. It depends on what they're protecting, right? It can be one session. It can be over a year. So she has personal burdens, right? Specific moments of trauma, particularly complex trauma, right? Lots and lots and lots of memories. That's why we've gone to so many. But she also carries cultural burdens, or has carried cultural burdens and religious burdens. And I would say at this point, she's about 85 to 90% unburdened, which is incredible. I am now able to say no to the person in front of me. I'm able to go and consider my own needs, my own preferences, to voice them. There's such a huge unburdening there. She'll still get a little bit activated, but it's been an incredibly freeing process. So let's see. When I asked Cassandra where she got the idea that we must please the person in front of us or we would be punished, she said, everywhere. which made sense to me, right? Because I would be punished in my family, with my parents, I'd be punished in school, in the government, in culture in general, in peer groups. There was always punishment of some kind: rejection, abandonment, being hit, being shamed, being with something withheld from me, right? So that made sense. And when I asked her what would happen if she did not please the person in front of me, she said, "We will die." And she was not being dramatic. She really, really believed that we will die. And later realizing that she's 6 years old and she's protecting particularly a 3-year-old, but lots of other younger parts, that makes sense. And she later said also, if we don't please the person in front of us, the other person will die. And that she revealed to me that she had an added burden that she took on later in life when a loved one died by suicide. And she blamed herself and thought, if I had just pleased this person enough, they wouldn't have died. So that added a huge additional weight onto her. But either way, she revealed that there were very, very high stakes to displeasing other people. So Cassandra she revealed to me that she was very afraid of making mistakes that she was unaware of. That's why she was so hypervigilant, because she showed me these experiences where she would get her mouth washed out with soap, or she would be hit, spanked, and she did not understand what she had done wrong, right? So it felt very unpredictable to her. So I remember, different things, different stimuli that would activate her. Like I would be, I'd lose track of time and I'd be running late to pick up my son, right, from school. And she would just be so panicked. And I remember asking her, and she said she was protecting this 3-year-old who was saying, "I'm going to be hit. I'm going to be hit." Right? I made a mistake. I did something wrong. I'm going to be hit. And that really revealed to me, oh, I see. This is a very young part. And I could update them and say, no, I'm not going to hit you. You made a mistake. It's okay. Right? And yeah, as self, I had to constantly update her and let her know that she would not be hit or punished, and that I loved her even when she made mistakes. So I have spent many, many sessions getting to know Cassandra. Like I said, she's one of my most dominant protectors. She was running the show all of the time that I was ever with any other person. And she really felt exhausted. Like I said, anytime any other person was around, because she had to keep up this hypervigilant guard. And the more people there were, her stress would multiply. And she also, another job that she had to do in order to do her job, was she had to keep another one of my parts exiled, suppressed, locked up. And that was, some of you know, my beautiful part, Sebastian, which I didn't really know until I started doing this work, and he would just come out periodically and protect other parts. And so Sebastian, at first, I would call him my angry part, because he just had this force within him. And Cassandra was very religiously burdened that it is never, ever okay to feel anger. I don't think I, meaning Cassandra, because she was my dominant part, believed that it was ever okay to even feel anger until I was about 45 years old. So now I understand the incredible value of anger, and that this is a human emotion that is designed to help us understand that we have boundaries crossed, that there's an injustice, that our needs are unmet, right? But at the time, Cassandra had so exiled anger, had so exiled Sebastian, that I didn't have any access to that. And what I realized is, in not having access to anger, I didn't have access to my own agency, my own value, awareness of my own needs. And so a lot of this was religious burdening. A lot of it was cultural burdening around, as a woman, you need to be a nice girl. You need to never express anger. You need to not express your own needs. You need to be self-sacrificing, all of those things. So being disconnected from that and from my own aversion response, right? Cassandra believed that if I ever in my body felt like, ooh, no, I don't want to be around this person. I don't want to do this, that it just meant I was a bad person. I was sinful and bad to ever feel the no, right? So, because her thing was, don't ever say no to anyone, or you will be punished. So what I would do is I would just say yes when my authentic truth was no, and then I would just feel resentful about it. But it makes sense that she was doing that because she thought that I would die or the other person would die, right? So I was able to see, I get it. I get why the stakes are so high, why you feel like it's impossible to say yes. The shame of that, right? Of being shamed and shaming the other person is unbearable. So we went to all kinds of memories, from being coerced to kiss my uncle when I didn't feel safe. I felt that aversion response. And I, as the self, would help her say no in all of these incidences, or younger parts of me, whatever part she was protecting. We went to incident after incident, helping the part of me say no when no was my truth. We said no to certain games with friends that they wanted to play or movies they wanted to watch, to being dressed up like a doll by my sister, to refusing to do certain school projects or chores. We just went one by one by one. And myself helped those parts endure whatever the backlash was, whether I was going to be hit for it, I was going to be ridiculed or shamed. The self would protect that part from that, or, just help me be able to withstand it. I remember when Cassandra took me to the night before my first wedding, in which my other part, Sebastian, I realize now, made me run several blocks away. It was, the rehearsal before the wedding. And it felt like an out-of-body experience, like something was just making my body run, runaway bride. I ran and ran and ran until I couldn't run anymore. And Cassandra let me know that she was the one that stopped me and that turned me around. So my body, Sebastian, all these other parts, they knew that my first relationship, my first marriage was abusive, toxic, problematic, dysfunctional, wanted to take me as far away as possible. But Cassandra knew that would displease not only my future husband, but everybody that was invited to the wedding. She was very concerned about displeasing everyone who was invited. So she made me go back. And so again, we redid that whole scenario and imagined what would have happened if I would have refused to get married the next day. And she helped me endure the backlash of people being disappointed, of people judging me and shaming me, of my first husband threatening, and all those things. We went to a lot of moments with my first husband, who was quite violent and abusive and would threaten to kill me frequently. So, I mean, she literally believed if I don't please him, I will die. So we went to all those kinds of moments, and it's so fascinating, the self, if and when his response to me saying no in that moment was violent and volatile, the self, what I pictured was the self like picking him up and moving him, like to another part of the world, essentially just creating this distance. There, at least in my case, myself was not violent with him or anything like that. It just was like, nope, your protective parts are being, dangerous here. We are going to remove you. So that was really interesting. We also went to moments in which I allowed sexual experiences that I absolutely did not want. Because again, she was so burdened. We cannot say no. We cannot displease this person. And there were times where it would kind of be like, no, I don't want to. And if the person would push, then it was like, okay, I have to. I can't say no again, right? The amount of energy to say no was so incredible that if she said no and another person pushed, she could not say no again. I helped her say no, or myself helped her say no to, letting my children be with my mother-in-law when it felt like she was not safe, that she didn't respect me or have my best interest at heart at all, and had done many things that were scary. But again, this Cassandra, the people pleaser, was like, I cannot upset her. I cannot say no to her, even at the jeopardy of my children, right? So we redid those incidences. Yeah, and many incidences in which I was terrified of my first husband. And like I said, in these kind of inner redoing of these memories, I'm just being very open to whatever happens, with however the other person responds, right? Because I cannot predict how they would respond. It's really like being in that moment and just allowing it to unfold. And so it's really fascinating because sometimes he would respond really volatilely and other times he wouldn't, in these kind of scenes in my mind. And I saw that if I had been able to say no much earlier in the relationship, and of course I wasn't, because Cassandra was so burdened, but if I had, the result would have just been that our relationship would have ended much earlier. I would have likely put myself in incredible danger as well, which is why another big reason why she was protecting me, right? If you say no, you literally could die. Yeah, but I think the end result was that I would have left much sooner. So I did this. I practiced saying no when that was the truth, in scenario after scenario after scenario. And Cassandra still continues to show me some, right? There's so many. I'll say, okay, what else and what else? And this is really common particularly with complex trauma, right? Or compounded trauma, right? Where there's trauma as a child and then there's trauma in new relationships after that. Is just a similar pattern. There's so many memories and so many trauma incidences to go to, but the self is patient and the self is persistent, and the self says, we have all the time in the world. I am here for you. We can go to that and to that and to that and to that. Just keep showing me, keep showing me. And that's really how it's been. It's been this really beautiful relationship between the self and Cassandra, where when I notice that she arises and she feels panicked when someone's asking her to do something, now I have access to Sebastian, right? So Sebastian, I'm very aware when my authentic truth is no. He had been so repressed before that I was totally disconnected to what I wanted or needed, right? It's just like, it felt like a like autopilot. Someone would ask me and I would just be like a robot. Yes, yes, yes. You know what I mean? And then once I had access to Sebastian, he would say, no, right? Listen to your body. Your body's saying no, no. And I would have to put some space there because Cassandra would be like, I must say yes or we will die. And Sebastian's like, no. So she's going, yes. And he's going, no. Right. And that's kind of a burden system's way of trying to achieve balance. They're both kind of extreme, because he would also point at the other person and say, how dare they ask us for that? They are a terrible person, right? He felt like, I have to blame and shame them in order to get you to say no, right? So they're both burdened. But eventually, as I would notice him and I would turn towards Sebastian and say, ah, when you're here, it means Cassandra's here. Is she here? And he would say, yes, she's wanting to sell the farm. She's wanting to say yes when the answer is no. And I would say, okay, let me go help her. And he'd say, yes, yes, please, please go help her. So then I would turn to Cassandra and I would say, I see you're here. I see that you're desperate. You feel like we have to say yes. Can we just wait 10 minutes and see how you feel after that? Or can I go to what you're protecting here? Can you show me? And then, we would go to all these different scenarios. And myself was there to comfort her, right? And to recognize her and to recognize that both Sebastian and Cassandra had positive intentions. Sebastian has a loyal value for me and my needs and my limits. Cassandra is also having a value for me and the repercussions on me of not pleasing or caring for other people, but sure, her value for other people is really quite beautiful. And both of them in balance, in integrity together, create this beautiful ability to consider both myself and other people, and to say no when that's my truth, because that's the best, most honest thing I can give to a relationship. You can't actually have intimacy with another person, true intimacy, if you are not being honest with them, because they don't really know who you are, right? So yeah, this has been an incredibly long but wonderful and fruitful journey with this part. So I hope that you appreciate that. I hope that it inspires you to get to know the parts of you that maybe are afraid of criticism, want to please other people, fawn. Another thing that she revealed to me real quick, I remember, was that when I was a young mother and I was in this very abusive relationship, I could not flee. I felt like I couldn't flee because I thought I needed to keep my family together. My religion told me that divorce was never okay, so it didn't seem like fleeing was an option. I couldn't fight because my husband was bigger than me and could overpower me. And I couldn't collapse because I had these children that I had to take care of. And so the only option I had left was to fawn. And that was what kept me and my children safe. I had to cater to whatever my first husband wanted in order to not be harmed. And so I have such appreciation for her and how she really saved my life. And I get to update her that I have a relationship with a wonderful man now who is completely safe and cares for me, and that he can accept my no and respect that, and not take it personally and not threaten me, So she's quite unburdened now. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. I'd love to hear from you.